What is up, y'all? It's your boy Aniki coming at you with another video, and today we're doing My Hero Academia Chapter 308 review. This chapter was a lot of fun. We had already it proved that I was right about some of the stuff I said last week. Gave further context, so just gonna go. I think this week we can go kind of page by page since it was a fight breakdown anyway. So we can go with the play-by-play of what was going on because it is a very technical, and we get kind of like little tidbits and updates on multiple little facets of the characters as we progress through the arc. So immediately when we open up with the arc, though, this chapter we pick up right off where we left off. You know, Deku's holding Shindo, he's got the smoke coming out of him, but Muscular is ecstatic, just geeked at the idea of seeing Deku again. He's just screaming for Midoriya. Straight up tells him he's missed things. You know, like Deku's probably one of the strongest opponents he's ever fought. It's not every day you get hit with, you know, All Might level blows. So I'm sure that, like, as far as Muscular being the meathead he is concerned, that was definitely worth, like, you know, a worthy encounter. And he actually makes it a point to grind a rock into an artificial eye. So it seems to be like that's just like one of his tics as a person. He has to like put that missing piece in there to show that he's complete. And so yeah, like even though it actually causes him to bleed, so it's like he takes actual damage from shoving the rock in his face. It's just something about his mentality that he has to do. But Horikoshi keeping him consistent with his character traits, and that I appreciate. And we see that like he jumps forward, and like the thing is that at first I didn't think it was that wild that, you know, Muscular would jump up and grab the building and flip it like a table. But Midoriya makes it a point to, you know, notice like he didn't jump high enough. And even when you look at the art, like you can see that he has multiple muscles like ripping off of his shoulders, off of his back. Just different muscle fibers are tearing off. So even as he's like flipping the building off and everybody's freaking out, and you know, the telescopic body girl, I can't remember her name right now, is trying to save Shindo and get him out of there. We see like Deku is like, all right, look, you guys just handle the evac. He's got all the smoke going, and he's like, sorry I didn't get here. I'll take care of it from here. He's like disappointed that so many buildings got destroyed, but he's, you know, he's here now, and like that's kind of what it is. He's like, with no more damage. And people, the fact that she doesn't know it's Midoriya because she recognizes his voice but can't see his face, and the fact that this is probably going to be Deku's MO going forward, means that he's going to be able to do a lot of things like to help society without necessarily All For One knowing with 100% certainty that it's him doing it. So that puts him in a position to still be able to help people while being right under All For One's nose. So we get the confirmation that now the previous users can appear in Deku's consciousness, like while he's awake and active, because the sixth user pulls up and they have a discussion about the utilization of the quirks and how Deku's a little overdoing it a bit with the smoke screen. And the sixth user says something really important, and it's that none of the quirks that he's getting from the users that we have been exposed to will be worthy of being a quote finishing move. And so, and that's true. We even get this depiction of like what a lot of people wish MHA was, where we see Deku, instead of it being like, hey, you have all these powers, we see him with a walkie-talkie to symbolize the danger sense, because, you know, he's getting a warning. He's got a rope for Black Whip, he's got a jetpack for float, and he's got a smoke grenade being tossed out on a side to symbolize the smoke screen quirk from N. And so we see now that he's going to be able to call on the different users and get these pep talks, get these ideas. And this is actually already alluded to being a thing within the story. If you read My Hero Academia Vigilantes, the villain 6 has the vestige of O'Clock because of taking his quirk. And so throughout the story, we had already been seeing O'Clock's ghost basically appear and give 6 advice on how to use the quirk, and now we see that that kind of quirk advice would be a real thing. And so again, Vigilante is kind of like setting up some of the mechanics that we're going to see in this story going forward. So there's definitely some stuff that I might go back and reread just to see if we have more of that coming into play later. But yeah, so just want to acknowledge that we have that, and so the ghost thing was already a part of the story's lore even before we saw that. Quirks kind of really do work like the Force to a certain degree if you can inherit somebody else's As Deku's fighting Muscular and he's like creating space from him, thinking about the moves, creating distance, remembering that Muscular was fully capable of tanking 100% smashes. We see that the smoke, by the way, just covers so much space. We're talking like blocks. It seems that he can create just a smoke screen that's going for like several blocks. That way, just massive amounts of, obscured vision creates a lot of stealth opportunities from the move without being seen and attack opponents if he already knows where they're going to be. And with the usage of danger sense that we see in this chapter, as Muscle is just charging at or trying to really land blows, and he's just swinging away on his webs, looking like Peter Parker finally, really coming through with that Daquan Parker aesthetic. Like, we get to know that these quirks that he's using in conjunction, like, he's finally like ridiculously skilled, and we're getting to see this emphasis on technique. And even Muscular is upset about it, where he's like, "Oh man, what's up with all these party tricks? What's all this? What's with all the like jumping, running, creating smoke illusions, all this other?" And he's like, "Nah, man, like." And Midoriya's like, "Yeah, I don't care about that conversation," which is something that I like. Like, I don't care about your complaints about this fight, like the whole meathead Rappa aesthetic, that like energy that Muscular is really going for. Deku was completely disregarded that. He's focused on the mission, and he's focused on what he's after. And one of the things that I again want to point out though is that in almost all of these pages where you can see close-ups of Muscular, he has popped muscle fibers on his shoulders, on his back. Even when you look back to when he's standing over him, just like Destro did Shigaraki, and the muscle fibers are popping out. So there's like this consistent thing where, like, even if you might not notice it on the first read, but after Deku mentions it, when you look back through, Horikoshi does actually include these details repeatedly throughout the manga to make sure that it's noticed. And Deku does something that he kind of mentioned would be his path to the previous users, where he straight up asked him, like, what's going on? Why do you do this? And Muscular's like, basically, he's like, I drink malt liquor, I smoke menthol, and I mess people up because I'm a nigga. Like, he's basically a member of the hateocracy. He doesn't care who you are or what you're about. He decides to just go about his day and mess things up. That's what he is. That's what he wants to do. And so Deku, having gotten that answer, is like, this is someone who has hurt many people and who has killed others, and it seems like this fight is inevitable, is what he says out loud, but I at least want to learn what makes him tick deep down, because he's looking for a way beyond just beating these guys and putting them in prison and causing them harm. And he doesn't want to be what Shigaraki called All Might, a government-sponsored weapon of violence. He wants to be a hero that actually provides solutions to the community, a hero that actually helps and saves everyone, not just the people who are considered the good, but those who are just simply human. He wishes to save everyone, help the people, get them on top, get them back. And so Deku wants to do what Hawks suggested to Twice, but he wants to do it for more than just Twice. He wants to try it for everyone, but he's also not going to hesitate to do what needs to be done. And he even explains to Muscular, those vibrations, yeah, you manage to endure them, but like towards the center mass, like where you get like your chest, like your ligaments, essentially where those areas are, those connecting fibers, still took a lot of damage from being stretched out. And now that you see those popping all over his muscles as he's been like rocking and jumping it through, just all those impacts have just been tearing away at that muscular armor even more. And so his muscles start just like straight up peeling apart. And then Deku comes, and it looks like he might have one-shot him. We can tell that he definitely landed a blow on an unprotected area of Muscular's abdomen. And Deku says this is also my full power. Now, one of the things that I want to note here is that could he potentially be like at 100% sure? Because we've got like this big split water thing and all that. But I'm pretty sure that would happen even at 45%. In fact, this particular tunnel is probably comparable in size to the St. Louis Smash Air Force that we saw back when he tried to counteract the Shigaraki decay wave during the war arc. So think he necessarily needs to be at 100% for this scene to have happened. I do think that he would have tapped into more of his powers, and I don't necessarily think that we've resolved whatever the reason is that's caused the second and third users to not necessarily talk to Deku yet, because it's important to note that we got 4 utility items on Deku when we were discussing these quirks, but we didn't. So we got the 4 for the active users who we've seen talk to him and agreed to him to be with him, and it doesn't make sense for, like, obviously Horikoshi could have just like completely hidden it away just because he didn't want to show us or give us any clues whatsoever, but it, from that perspective, I don't know, it kind of seems like it would have been a perfect opportunity to give us like a small clue to speculate in the direction of what the quirks would be, because he would then, you know, have like the full garments, and especially because we've gone so much through the story of emphasizing that the quirks that he's getting from them aren't that good, that it would be, I'm really hoping that it doesn't turn into something that's like super broken, since that's not really what the case has been. Like Deku's smoke quirk is mostly about obscuring him and keeping him from being seen and noticed within this stage of the narrative. Deku's float quirk was about being unlocked and keeping him and Shigaraki in the air towards the finale of the war arc. Black Whip is like, you know, just him awakening the power and like taking that step towards his independence and moving away from his identity with All Might and becoming his own hero. So each of these quirks has like come out of his way to like, one, enhance his role in the narrative or enhance his identity in the narrative, and then also to just kind of move his fighting style and his safety away from certain big problems that could occur within the story, like the decay waves, or just being easily spotted by Shigaraki, but, you know, the rubble and stuff doesn't seem an obscure scan, so we'll see what happens with that, or search, sorry. But yeah, there's just a lot of this is mostly a hype chapter, but the fact that Deku was using his logic, you know, going back to the days of the Hero Notebook, really kind of seeing what I think a lot of us expected Deku to do when we first met the character, really go ahead and give you this analysis, give a breakdown, utilize these tools correctly, and then give a finale, like a big finisher to him. And I think that even people who weren't necessarily happy with Deku having a quirk, who wanted Deku to be quirkless, when you see this comparison to, you know, having a bunch of arsenals or a bunch of tools in a tool belt compared to this, you can kind of interpret it that way if you really want to. You can kind of see the same vibe or aesthetic within these characters, but it's just that because of the power level that we're fighting with here, Deku still needs them to be superpowers, but you're getting the same philosophy and approach to combat from Deku going forward, where he'll be analyzing their psyche as well as their physicality to make sure that he can take them down as optimally as possible, but also, if possible, you know, take them down and convert them, bring them back to the light. I think that the idea that Deku would potentially run into different villains in the order of which they understand each other the least as he goes through his rogues gallery is the potential direction of this arc. Of course, we also had discussions on the possibility of the Deku Retrieval Squad already being formed, and it consisting of like Ida, Tokoyami, Bakugo, Shoto, and then eventually Uraraka would have to come in and be the clutch factor, because we know it's important to note that those 3 or 4 characters are characters who would be very heavily attached to Midoriya or have had interactions with him where they wouldn't want to just let this go. And Tokoyami not wanting to let Midoriya fall into a place of darkness, Bakugo and Shoto just legitimately being friends who care. Same with Ida, and Tokoyami just being this character who's often on the side in the cursory, and I could see him very much wanting to also repay Deku for the time he saved him from his own quirk rampaging. So Deku being in isolation because of what he considers the curse of his power would tie in really nicely with Tokoyami having to deal with the Dark Shadow and the rampages, and how his power can feel like a curse that can be a danger to the people around him, but he still manages to make friends, and that's an important lesson that Deku needs to learn. So the idea of chasing legacies is something that Ida had to deal with, like running after that legacy, and same with Shoto, where they need to not only have Deku affirm that this power is his, you know, from the standpoint of how he's using it and mastering it, but he also needs to realize that yes, his power was made for like helping people and taking down All for One, stopping that evil, but he is still his own hero. He still has his own path, and he's still allowed to have his friendships. He doesn't have to do it alone, even if that power alone is supposed to be enough. That doesn't matter. He has the option to do more, and Bakugo's kind of just got to be there to like really tie together that last bit of emotion, their childhood, and like really bring that conversation to like a head and really get the breakdown of what's going down. So I'm really looking forward to these upcoming like story beats while Deku's out on his own, and what the perspectives of these other characters we're going to be getting moving forward is going to be, because there's a lot of room for Deku, or I should say like Bakugo, Shoto, Ida, these various characters to come into the spotlight and really take control of the scene. And I think that if we're going to get something that's akin to people like seeking out a Deku retrieval arc, or like finding Alan Walker in the same way that like people are like traveling around looking for him, checking out spots where they've recently heard rumors about the smoke vigilante that comes onto the scene, I think we could get a lot of mileage out of this. This is actually a lot of this opens a lot of possibilities for various students to have arcs where they get to interact with villains, interact with Deku potentially, and have some conversations where some people potentially almost catch him. And so that's just where I could see the story being for a while, and that lets a lot of characters explore how they feel. And I think Chaco is going to be the one who finally does bring Deku home, so to speak, and we can move forward there. But I would like to know what you guys think about this chapter, what you thought about the fight, how you think about the choreography, especially since the choreography is only improving as Deku becomes more skilled, meaning that the fight paneling is only going to get better and better for Deku during his matches. Like I'm sure you noticed when the panels were split with the Danger Sense Lightning Bolt in this chapter. So yeah, just tell me what you guys think. Leave those comments, drop those likes. Let me know how you guys felt about My Hero this week. I'm Aniki. I'm out. You already know. You can be at the Church of MHA every Sunday, and I'm hopefully going to have another upload for you guys coming up soon. All right, Aniki out.